Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd, and in this video we are going to take a look at creating the tree asset that we have here, and we're going to be working on the actual geometry for it. So I did add some couple of things just to show you over here, where I just added a color node to add some color randomness. So I did that on the leaves here, and then also I added a color for the wood at each level that we have here. But other than that, it should be pretty close to the exact same asset. And if I click on the copy here, you can use kind of a procedural workflow to instance it over and over again so that you can create like a forest type of scene if you'd like using this asset. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, to start off we're going to create a geometry node. And let's call this tree. It's going to be where we start building out our tree. And then I'm going to start off with a curve. It's going to be a line. And right now it's 1 unit tall, so it's about 1 meter. So let's make it 3 meters tall. I'm going to turn on the point so that we can see it. We have 2 points currently. Let's bump it up to 10 to start off with. So this is going to be kind of the base trunk, and then we're going to use the same kind of method for creating the branches and twigs as well. So it's going to be 3 levels. It's going to be the trunk, branches, twigs, and then we put leaves on the twigs. So we want to be able to take this line and kind of modify it and also get a piece of geometry around it to be the trunk. So let's start off with a wire node. It's going to be a poly wire. There we go. So we can see that gives us kind of a low poly. We can adjust the radius here. And then with the divisions, that's the number across. So that's what I want to modify. I'm going to put it at 8, so it's a little bit rounder. I'm not going to make it too high poly for this example, but that gives you the idea. So we need to add stuff in between here so that way we can start modifying this curve. But you can see what it ends up happening. It builds a poly wire over here. Something else with the curve. If we add more segments, you can see it does add more detail. So this is just modifying the line. It's not even modifying the poly wire to add more detail. So that's something we want to look at as well. From here, I'm going to create a group. And I'm going to group by range. So this will allow me to not have the bottom point move when we start modifying it. So for example, if we add a point jitter and throw it on here, we can see that the root has moved. I'm going to put it actually after it. And then let's call this jitter GRP. So here we can filter it by the group jitter GRP. And right now in this one we haven't set anything. So we want to basically, if we highlight it here, we can see that we have everything in the jitter group. And what I want to do is, instead of primitives, switch it over to points. And you can see as I increase from the start, it's going to take points away from the start point. Okay, now if I go to the jitter, we could say that it's applying the jitter to the points, but if we bring the intensity down, we can see that it's not moving the first two joints, or not joints, but points. And then we can adjust the C to get different variations. Something I like to do after that is just smooth, because this is a bit intense, but if we add a smooth right after it, we get kind of a nice movement. And then if we need more, we can just increase this. And it'll give us some jitter and variation, but it's not going to be like too wacky crazy. And then we look at the polywire after that. And that looks good. Another thing that is a little weird at this stage is that it is, when we look at it on the polywire, we have the same thickness going all the way up and down. So in the previous iterations of this, I used different nodes. So this is the biggest update with the way I'm doing it to create it. So what we want to do is create a color. So we're going to use a ramp to control the thickness here. And I think by default, I'm going to make it black. And if we're looking at this, you can see that it's changing all the points to black. And if we were to switch it to white, you can see we get different colors. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is create a sphere here. And it can really be any geometry. It's just something that I want to transfer over some values from, because I'm going to actually add a color here. And on this one, it's going to be white. So we have a little sphere here that's white. Let's change this to polygons. And then I'm going to do an attribute transfer. Okay. So the first one is the attributes we're going to transfer to, and then the second one's where we're going to transfer from. And if we look here, now this curve goes from black to completely white. In the attribute transfer, what I can do is go over to the conditions. The radius right now is 10 units, which is huge. I can bring that down, but we can see that the distance threshold is at 10 too. So we can see that as we decrease it, we can get a value here. So I want it to be basically this distance threshold to be all the way up to the height, I think. Nope. I'm going to put it all the way to 0. And then the blend weight, I want that to be at the height. So basically we're taking it from virtually nothing all the way up to whatever the height of the line is. So with this line, what I can do is take the length, copy parameter, and then over here we can highlight this and paste relative reference. So whatever the length of this curve is, it's always going to be kind of that same length. And we get a gradient of color happening here. That doesn't affect the weight, but you can see that we do have a little bit of scale happening here. So basically it's going from white to black. Then what we can do is do a attribute VOP and stick that here. And then let's double click to go inside of the attribute VOP. And what I want to do is basically take the color, attach a ramp parameter, and then take the ramp and connect it to CD for color. Okay. And then if we jump back out, we can see that we have this ramp here, and we can adjust it to adjust where the color is. We can also adjust a gradient. So like let's do something like this. So we got black, and then we can go back to black. We can adjust the look of the color any way we'd like. Okay. Now, what I want to do is say here in the wire radius, which controls the thickness of the tree, we're going to say that it is going to be connected by a value. So we can try at CD, which is going to be our color. And you can see that we kind of get what we want. But the only problem is that it's going to kind of extreme values. So what we can do is say fit 0, 1, have the color as the first value, and then we can set a minimum maximum. So we can say something like let's put 0.01, and then the most that we want it to be is at 0.2. Oh, and we need to close the parentheses. Let's try that again. There you go. And then we can adjust these values to be more or less. Okay, and then we get a bit of control here where we can actually adjust how the tree becomes thicker or thinner by manipulating this gradient, or the ramp value. So I'll keep it like that for now. Okay, so that gives us a starting point for a trunk of the tree. And if we look right here, this is kind of where the trunk is happening. And this is basically the whole process that we need to create a branch or a trunk or whatever we're working on at the moment. So I'm going to copy this, paste it. So we're going to have the trunk, we're going to have a branch, and then we need another chain for twigs. Okay, so I'm going to do another group by range. And here, basically, I want it to be from points. And this is going to be kind of where we start and end creating branches from. So let's say at this stage I want it kind of here. So I want to be able to see the trunk here, and then from here on up we're going to have branches. And then let's call this our branch GRP. Connect it here, and then this is going to be our twig GRP. Okay, so let's look at adding these onto here. So let's do a copy, and I'm going to do a copy stamp. And then we're going to take this geometry and stick it here. You can see we got a lot of craziness going on here. I'm going to do the template group to be, oops, not that. Let me look. I think I might have connected things a little wrong here. Permitted to copy, that's that one, and then the template to copy from is that. And then here we can do the branch group. So as we adjust the branch group here, you can see that we can add more or less branches. Depending on where in the range we are having it happen at. And then let's connect this here. So we have the twig, and then we just have to merge these together. And then we can see what's going on here. So obviously the branches have to get smaller as they're going up, and it has to, yeah, so as it goes up over here, we can use that ramp to make these smaller. We also need to rotate it and do a few other things, but let's do a actually let's not do a transform. Let's go here in the copy stamp, and if we look at the rotate, that's not going to rotate anything. Let's turn transform cumulative off. So here we can see kind of what's happening there. We get some rotation there, and then we get a tilt there. So I'm going to kind of start off around here. And what I'm going to do is say $PT. So it's going to give us the point number. I want to run a random function, so I'm going to say rand $PT. And then I'm going to do a fit range. So fit 0, 1. The first value is going to be that random based off of the point. And then comma 0, comma 360. There we go. So we get a whole bunch of branches like that, and then we can actually here in the Z. So let's break this really quick. I want to see. Okay. Let's take this. No, that's not the angle. This is the angle. Okay, so if I adjust that down and I do this here, it's going to go around in a circle. So that's good. That's what I want. So now let's do that expression again. Fit 0, 1 $, or sorry, rand $PT, comma 0, comma 360. Oops, I need to add a parentheses here, and then we are set. So we have branches coming all the way around in a circle, and then here we are having a little bit of issue with the orientation. But if we add a transform here. Let's see if we can get that to work from here. So that goes around in a circle there. This spins it, and this gets it to go up and down. So I'm going to want it more up and down like that. And I can add a bit of randomness here based off of a stamp. And that's why we're using the copy stamp tool. So let's look at stamp, and I'm going to say tree branch angle. I'm going to copy that. Let's say this is our branch copy. Okay. And then if we go to the transform here, you can see that it's at 40 there. So what I'm going to say is stamp, and then I need a string. The first one is which node it is. So // branch copy, close quotes. Then we need the name of the attribute, so I copied that and I put it there, and then a default value if it is not working. So I give it that, and then let's look at the branch. Right now we haven't put any branch inputs, so there. Right now it's taking the input, but we have a value of 0, so we could change it here manually if we wanted to, but we can actually do a fit 01. Then do rand based off of the point number, so $PT. Then we want it to go, let's say, from 20 to 60 degrees. And there we go. We got some branches happening on the tree that are kind of pointing upwards. And then if we wanted to, we can do like plus 10 or something like that. And that gives us another, basically a seed value for the randomization. Can highlight that and change the value on here. We get different variations. Cool, I like that. Okay. So now basically we need to repeat something like this. So I'm going to copy and paste that there. And then let's push Y and disconnect those. So here we're going to copy that, and then from the transform we are going to go from that. So we get something like that, except that we are not filtering it by the correct group. We want it to be the twig group, not the branch group, because I renamed it for this version. There we go. And then we can merge it together with this and then connect it there. So we have something kind of like that, and we get a branching system happening right now. So we just need to adjust some of the scale attributes, which is okay. But you can see that it's starting to look like a tree now once we get everything kind of connected together. And maybe if we wanted to, instead of using a merge, oops, go to Y, and connect these. Instead of using a merge, we can use a Boolean, and it will all become one mesh. So if we look at this here, instead of subtract, we're going to say union, and then it becomes one solid piece of geometry. And then the same thing here. Let me get rid of this and then create a Boolean. Put both of these together, so visualize it, and then again, instead of subtract, we are doing union. Basically, let me turn this off. We have all the geometry together like that, but what we'll end up doing is remeshing everything. And then we can get something kind of like that, so that way we have one continuous piece of geometry going through everything. Okay. So let's take a look at updating a few things. Let me save this because I have not saved this at all. D drive, CGI Nerd, new folder, tree, model, and then we'll call this tree. Okay. Now we got a tree going. So let's look at what we got going on up the chain, because it'll be a little bit easier, and then we'll apply it going down the chain too. So here, what I want to do is take the color information and adjust the scale. So I can go here, and I'm going to say twig scale, and it's going to be similar to this. So I'm going to copy that and paste it here, but I'm going to take this value here, and let's say the low value is going to be 0.1, and the high value is going to be 1. Okay. So we can copy this and then put it in the uniform scale, but the default value being 1. And this is the one that we need to get from here. So twig scale. And paste it here. And I did it based off of the point value, but I should probably do it off of the color. So at CD. And I don't want to randomize it. So we're taking the color and setting it up from 0.1 to 1. So that looks great. So I'm going to copy this because I'm going to apply it again as I go to the twigs. So we can see as it goes here, the branch is getting smaller. Then we going to say branch scale. And then we're going to say it's the same expression. And then here, I'm going to basically copy this, paste it, and then this is going to be branch scale. So we can look at it here. You can see that they get smaller as they go down. And then let's look at the kind of the remeshed version here. Actually, let's look at a Boolean so you can see kind of what's happening there. So that looks great. If we wanted to, we can subdivide at this section here. And then basically if we add more depth, we will get more branches happening. And then we can also say with the rotation, I don't like the value here, so I can say like plus 5. It should seed a new set of values. And I don't need nearly as many as what I'm copying right now, so in the subdivide, let's bring this down. And then going back over here, I can take this and find a layout that I kind of like. Seems I keep on kind of leaning. There we go. Okay. And then let's add some leaves. So if you look at the branch copy here, I want to see this here. So I can create a geometry for a leaf, and then I can basically copy stamp it here. So let's go ahead and add a, I'm going to do a grid. And let's visualize this here. Let's do it maybe 5 by 5. And actually, the size, I'm going to bring it down all the way to like 1 by 1. And then 5 by 5 segments. I like that. And then I am just going to basically edit the geometry by point. Something kind of like this. So I have a leaf, and then I can maybe take some points here. And round it out a little bit. Cool. So I have a curved piece of geometry that kind of looks like a leaf. I like that. And then let's do a copy stamp. And this is going to be our leaf copy, and in this case I'm doing it past the the polywire so that I can copy to the points of that. And then I can create a group by range again. Connect it before the copy stamp. And I have the ability to select one out of every like 7, something like that. Let's set this to points. So we have the polywire, we have the group by range, and I am not seeing this. Let's turn on the points. There we go. Okay. Select one of 7. Well, let's do the start range right here. Are we deselecting anything? It doesn't look like it. Go to primitives, see if that helps me. There we go. Okay, it shows that I don't have anything selected here with the group. Vertices, points. It's going to be our leaf GRP. Okay, so we are getting the points there. And let me see, I'm just going to copy one of these points over here, and I'll rename it, see if there's something that I got going on here. Connect it here, and then let's name this leaf GRP. Signal it here. We can start off at 0. Let me pause the video and then I will let you guys know what's going on. Okay, I checked out a few things. I am not sure why it's not visualizing it here, but if we go to the leaf copy here and we set the template group to the leaf group that we had, then we go over here and adjust the setting that I was trying to visualize. You can see that you can get more or less points depending on what we need. So that is a way to kind of start it. And then the start range here, we can see that if we increase this, we're getting some at the base. So I want to make sure that I'm not getting points down there, but basically this is kind of how you set it up. It looks like the point numbers here. So we start off at 0 over here, then we get the high numbers over here. So what we can do is when we're copying it here, also kind of trim off from the high end. So that way we don't get that, and then we can come back and adjust the values here to get it to have the leaves kind of where we want them. Also, let's look at the leaves that we have here. I want to, in the edit node, just put it to start off. right at the origin there. So when we copy the leaves, let's turn off the numbers there. We can see that we are going to be copying it off of the point rather than into from the middle of it. We can also add a transform, and then let's just scale these down. And we can also actually, instead of the transform there, let's do it here based off of the CD number, so the color. So we're going to say CD times 1. And turn off transform cumulative. And there you can see that they get kind of smaller. And maybe just so it's a little bit more controllable, I'll just do a fit 0, 1 and put the color there. And then we'll start from, let's say 0.6 and go up to 1. So now we can see that they get smaller as they go up. And here, let's, not that way, but let's rotate this. So it looks like most of them are working fine. We can add a transform, or we can just actually rand $PT. So it's going to be just randomizing the values here, and then I'm going to do a fit 0, 1, and we will do 0 to 360, and then copy that, paste, and paste. There we go. And here, maybe add a few more leaves. And then maybe decrease that. I still don't want it from the end. I'm just gonna get it to the point where it just takes off that without taking any off from the top. There we go. And then if we go all the way down to the remesh value, this will take a while because it's going to remesh everything with the trees. But let's turn off the points. And we kind of have these trees working out right now for us. And we can go through to any of these values. So I have the tree branch, and it would be inside of the stamp. And we can modify it. So let's say I wanted it to be kind of aiming higher up. I can take this value and let's increase it by a value there. I didn't want to go that far up. I'll just type it out, say 70. here, do it by 30. Okay, let's turn off the wireframe and just kind of look at it. You can see we have something working here. With all of these values, there are really kind of the same values going into each one of them. So with any of your stamp values, you can go in and create a new variable in the stamp. Let's do something where we might see a little bit. So we can say branch jitter, and we're going to just say rand $PT, and then multiply that by 10. And let's say over here, we're just going to say +1. So that way it's never 0. Okay, so we have a branch jitter value that we can modify now. And then we can go to the point jitter that we have here. And let's say we go ahead and create a expression here that is the stamp // oh, and this has to be in quotes. Branch copy / branch copy. It's the first one. Oops. Branch copy, and then we said it was branch jitter, and then a default value of 1, and there we go. Now it's taking some time to cook everything, but it should give us a different result, because now the branch jitter that we have here is going to be different. And let's maybe look at it here so we can see it a little bit easier. And let's say we change this value here. We should see some change there. See? Two. So each individual branch is going to be individually different by adding an expression like that. So you can add a lot of randomization throughout your whole setup of trees that way. And now we can see everything kind of coming together and becoming a tree-like. All right, so that's basically how we set up a tree, the updated tree tutorial. I hope you guys got a lot of out of this. Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.